Alright, so I'm sorry, we have to talk about Picasso. Let's at least start with something I really like about Picasso. The bombing of Guernica happened in 1937 during the Spanish Civil War and was carried out by Francisco Franco, who was, of course, an ally of the Nazis. The bombing caused somewhere between 400 and 1,700 civilian deaths in a town mostly populated by women and children. Many historians consider the bombing of Guernica to be a war crime. This bombing inspired Picasso to paint Guernica. This floor-to-ceiling piece is considered one of the most moving and powerful anti-war pieces in history. I have a hard time talking about Guernica without becoming emotional. Guernica today continues to stand as a perpetual reminder of the tragedies of war and the embodiment of peace. Okay, let's talk about something I don't like about Picasso. This is Madeleine. At the end of Picasso's blue period, he painted Girl in a Chemise. The model is a woman we only know as Madeleine. Now, Picasso is infamous for his lovers. Several of them, like Madeleine, became his muses. He had a complicated relationship with women, to say the least. I mean, it's thought that Picasso used his sexuality to fuel his artistic genius, which is gross. He could be abusive. He was quoted as saying, "There are two types of women, goddesses and doormats." I mean, this guy sucks. And I could do an entire series just on him and the way he mistreated the women he painted. But we're here to talk about Madeleine. Madeleine was Picasso's mistress in the summer of 1904. He featured her in several kind of erotic pieces like Girl in a Chemise. And then he got her pregnant, persuaded her to have an abortion, and ditched her to have an affair with another model named Fernand Olivier. Now, abortion in Europe before the 20th century had been legal and not really thought about very much, as long as it was done before the mother felt the first movements of the fetus. But from what I've read, changing sentiments around the turn of the century meant a push towards stigmatizing and illegalizing abortion, right around the time Picasso was pressuring Madeleine. I can't tell you much about her, but what I can tell you is that what she went through was probably awful. Adding political turmoil to an already traumatic situation is the worst. It's disgusting and dangerous for women who find themselves in that situation, and I feel intensely for her. But remember, Picasso really sucked. So even though this horrible thing happened and he wasn't even with Madeleine anymore, he didn't stop painting her. In 1904 and 1905, Picasso starts painting Madeleine with children. I know this is gross. I'm so sorry. Picture of mother and child, 1905. Harlequin's family with an ape? What? Anyway, there's Madeleine again. When Girl with a Chemise resurfaced in 1968, Picasso joked, "Can you imagine me having a son 64 years old?" Like I said, poor beautiful Madeleine is just one example in a long history of Picasso mistreating women in his lifetime, and not just his mistresses. If my least favorite quote from Picasso is that little gem he said about women being doormats and goddesses, my favorite quote about Picasso came from his granddaughter as recently as 2001. She said, and I seriously quote, "His brilliant oeuvre demanded sacrifices. He drove everyone who got near him to despair that engulfed them. No one in my family ever managed to escape the stranglehold of this genius. He needed blood to sign his paintings. My father's blood, my brother's, my mother's, my grandmother's, and mine. He needed blood of those who loved him. People who thought they loved a human being, whereas they really loved Picasso. I would love to cancel Picasso, but you can't. You just can't. He made way too much of an impact on art and like the world. He founded Cubism, he invented constructive sculpture, he co-invented collage. If you've ever made a collage, and I know you have because at some point you were in first grade, you did that because of Pablo Picasso. So here's the real thing. I don't want to live in a world where the Nazis bombed a town and murdered 1,000 women and children, and no one painted Guernica. But I'm conflicted because I hate that means I am sacrificing this poor soul who we don't know much about, but I can tell you didn't deserve what she got.